Hi, and welcome back to the next episode of Beyond the Show. Thank you to everyone who's been listening so far. Today we have a very special guest, Laura Ellen White.
Hi.
Hi, Laura. So we're going to be talking about Laura's journey from performer to her role at Pop-Up today and everything in between.
Amy said no, but Dan said yes. And now we've got this jingly mess. Laura and Shelley, they won't admit. Secretly, they're loving it. It's your fave podcast, hosted by Pop-Up. I should have done a vocal warm-up, but here we are, so get ready to know what goes on beyond the show. Beyond the show. Do, 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 do. Beyond the show. Do, 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 do. Beyond the show. Do, 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 do. Beyond the show. Yeah.
So, let's go right back to the beginning. How did you ever get into performing?
I always sang at home. It's like from as long as I can remember, I was obsessed with Grease and Mary Poppins, would watch them on repeat. I loved it. But then outside of the home, I was painfully shy, which I think
Lol.
yeah. For anyone that knows me
No
now.
one's going to buy that. I do actually believe that it was true, but Laura being shy would be a blessing, actually.
No, it's a joke. Imagine me being quiet.
No, Dan, if you're listening, imagine her being quiet. The dream.
He'd be livid that my mum ever sent me to drama because he'd be like, what could have been? But I was painfully shy. I had no friends, genuinely. I was like in reception at school. My parents got called in because they were like, Laura's got no mates.
So half of me, I'm like, oh, that's sad. And the other half is like, shock.
They were like, she only speaks to Mrs. Kings, who was the teaching assistant. Shout out to my first best friend, Mrs. Kings. So they were like, right, what are we going to do? Because at home, she doesn't shut up. She's like doing the full Super Cali performance and the Spice Girls and whatever. So my mum's friends' kids went to a drama school. So my mum's friend was like, you should send her there, like it'll help her build the confidence. So when I turned 6, because that was the age limit, they sent me to a drama school called Players Drama School, which was in my hometown. And that was kind of where it properly began.
You came alive.
I came alive slowly. It did take me a while. Like we're still shy a little bit. It took me years to like gain the confidence, but I absolutely loved it. I went every week from the age of 6 to 16. So that's like commitment, like to the cause. Like it was clear that it basically became clear over a period of time. That it wasn't just a hobby; it was a passion, and I loved it. And I love my friends. Like I made amazing friends, and I just loved to sing, loved to dance, loved the acting, loved doing the shows. My first experience of doing a proper show outside of school, I did a 2-week summer school when I was like 6 or 7. That was The Wizard of Oz, and I was a munchkin, obviously. And I just loved it. I loved it. I thrived, and I was excited for it every week. So then that spilled into like outside of just drama. When I went to high school, I did all the shows. I basically took any and every opportunity to sing. I did talent shows. I would sing in assembly like every other week. I swear to God, my school like peers must have been like, oh, not again. I got singing lessons. I begged for singing lessons for years. And when I was 12, my mum caved. And yeah, it was just a massive part of who I was.
And you were quite academic at school as well, weren't you? So how did you decide kind of what route to go down if you were clever? And I imagine your parents were like, be a doctor, be whatever. But you also had this passion.
Yeah, I did. I worked really hard at school. I just love being good at stuff. So I would just like be like, I am going to be the best at maths and I'm going to be the best at this, which is sad really, but it's who I am. Do you know what? It was actually two sides of a coin. So I remained academic and I worked really hard in that sense, but I also like wanted to be the main part in every show and like I sang at every opportunity. My parents were really, really supportive of me all the way through, especially my mum. My mum used to sing as a child and no. She was an opera singer.
Was she?
Linda, yeah, she was. So she just loved that I was into it and really pushed me in that direction. Backstory, but my mum's a hairdresser. My dad was an engineer for like a big corporation. And my mum, and she won't mind me saying this, she was never rich. She never made loads of money from being a hairdresser, but she loved it. Like I watched my mum own a salon and I would be in that salon all the time. She would just spend all day like laughing and having the best time. And she loved going to work. She never ever dreaded going to work. So then as I was getting older, I was trying to decide, like when I was at college, what do I do at uni? Do I go down this performing route, which is what I love and is my passion, or I am clever and I was going to do maths, which is wild.
You are good at spreadsheets.
I am good at spreadsheets and I was really good at maths, and I applied for uni. I did my whole UCAS. For anyone that's not been to uni, it's like this big thing you've got to fill in to apply for your unis of choice for maths.
Wow.
So
what a different life you would have had.
I know, because I had like, my dad was really like, you're so clever, and also my college were really pushy about me going down that route.
How did they feel when you were like, I'm not going to do maths, I'm going to do drama?
I think my mum was like, yes. My dad was like, you do you, boo. And my college was like, what are you doing? But yeah, and it got to the day that UCAS was like the final day. After that day, you couldn't change it. That was it. You were going to uni and doing maths. And I came in and I went to my form teacher and I was like, I've messed up. We need to change it. We need to change it now. And he was like, right. So yeah, that was kind of it. And it's not that my dad didn't support me in singing. He did. He was both of them were so proud of me. But it was more that he was like, think about the future. You could make so much
cash.
money. Yeah. Whereas my mum was just like, live your dream. So yeah, in the end, it was just like a last minute decision where I was like, no, I cannot sit. I can't. I loved maths, but I can't. That's not who I am. That's not what I want to do. So I changed it all, and at the time as well, I was also auditioning for drama schools as well as uni, just in case. And that was just the decision I made at the time. I knew that it was what I wanted to go for and try to do.
So when was like your first big performance where you were like, I'm a star?
My first ever performance opportunity was I just was coming out of my shy era, very young, like maybe 6, and Mrs. Morris, my teacher, Mrs. Morris, caught on that I could sing, I don't know, in the assembly or something, in choir, and she cast me as Mary in the show. The only solo, by the way, in the whole show was me.
Right.
I also I was so small that I had a baby that was honestly the size of me, and I'm holding this baby. I can still sing you the song now, it's stuck with me forever.
Go on, give us just a line.
Holding baby, Jesus. It's cold outside, but we're safe tonight. Basically, I was talking to Jesus and Joseph, my hubby.
I didn't actually think you'd sing it, so anyway, here we are.
Cut that bit out.
Right, okay. So you went on to do, what was your degree in?
My degree was in performing arts. So I got into a drama school, but then it was you had to pay to go, and we didn't have the cash. I tried, and we just didn't have the cash. So I was like, had a bit of a meltdown. I was like, I'm not going if I'm not going to London. Like, that's my dream. But then I was like, might as well go. I almost swore then. Might as well go, see what happens. So I went to do a performing arts course at the University of Cumbria in Carlisle, which is, by the way, the countryside, like not uni vibes at all. But I went for it because of the specific course. It was the least, it was the most vocational, like the least academic-led course, like the least essay-led, the most practical. And it was great. I loved it. It was 3 years of, there was 4 parts to it. So there was singing, dancing, acting, and tech.
Right.
So.
And how's that tech part of the degree carried over?
Do you know what? It's wild. We would do things, like the things that they used to trust us to do is insane. They had this big theatre with like rigging that went all the way around, really, really high up, and they'd have us on these massive ladders, like rigging lights, and like we would be doing like lighting programming and sound programming and all of this stuff. I built set. Like I would design
so
and
we can get you on it this summer then.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I'm ready making costumes. I'm sewing costumes. But I would say one of the big things that we did was stage management. Because I'm bossy in nature. No, not me. But because I am, I'm naturally like that. We would get to like choose whatever show we were doing. We would all choose what bit we wanted to do. And I would always be like, I'll be stage manager. Because I was good at telling people what to do. But I would say that bit has actually really helped me in my career now. But a lot of it was just working with different directors and choreographers and doing lots of shows. Some really weird stuff. Like, I think
uni stuff's always weird.
So weird. Like, people at drama schools are doing like Chicago. I'm doing like,
do like a mind piece about drug abuse.
Yeah,
right.
We once did this like thing about like spooky, scary in a nightclub.
Yeah,
it
it is
so
weird. So you left uni.
Yes.
And then what happened?
I left uni and I actually went travelling straight out of uni for 5.5 months.
Travelling gal.
Yeah, I was. Just went to find myself. But I saved up loads of money to do it and I was really excited. So I went away for like 5.5 months to various different places. But I came back from that and I was like, how do I continue to see the world and sing at the same time? And
we all know where this is going.
We all know where it's going. I landed on cruise ships. One of my mum's friends' daughters was a dancer on cruise ships. My mum had always told me about her and how amazing her life was, and she travelled the world and da-da-da-da. And it was just like, well, that's what I'll do then. The end.
So that was after you'd been travelling, you got your first cruise ship job.
Mm-hmm.
Now tell me what that experience was like from going to university, but then being in like, because I had a similar experience where I went to a uni, I didn't go to a drama school, to then going into an intense rehearsal period to go on the ship.
It was. I was actually used to intense rehearsals from uni because we would work for like 2 months on a show and all day, every day, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, all we do is rehearse for that specific show. So I was used to that. But when I got the contract, I was buzzing, by the way. I got a Caribbean contract. So I was like, this is mint. But I got cast as a singer. And I remember getting the phone call.
We know it's a lie.
Yeah. And I remember saying to the woman that was offering me the job, to confirm, I'm just going to be singing. She's like, yeah. I was like, great. This is my idea of a great time. And then I got there and that very much was not the case. Like, I've danced as part of like my drama school when I was a child, but I didn't go to ballet classes. I wasn't like a tap dancer. I had very little dance training apart from like...
I thought you said I had very little rhythm.
I did. Actually, no, I would say I have
you've got rhythm. You've got more rhythm than I have. I don't know why I'm laughing.
But no skill. So when I got there, it was like this really... Well, first off, the content's insane. Like, you've never worked with that much content in your life. You're doing a new show every week and it's a lot. And I was one of the lead singers, so that was a lot anyway. And then they were like, so we're doing a show that was all dance. It was just a dance-focused show. That was the theme. And I sang one song in it. One, and the rest I was dancing in. And the amount of meltdowns that I had, I would just go back to where we lived on my own during a break and just sit on the sofa quietly, like silent tears, being like, how am I going to get through this?
For context, me and Laura did the same contract, but like 3 years apart. So... relatable.
Really relatable.
And it is intense, and when you are told you're going on as a singer, now don't get me wrong, we have people at Pop-Up where like you're a singer but you will be required to move. This is like you're a singer but you're going to be centre front doing time steps. And I'm like,
you're a singer.
Googling what is a time step.
But this is a whole Fosse routine, and then you're going to do a jazz routine, then you're going to do a 6-minute can. What are you talking about?
I had to shoulder my leg for 3 counts of 8 on my own in the start of it. It was just the theatre's like dark, and then one spotlight comes on me. Now I have the flexibility but not the choral technique, so I'm just like 3 counts of 8 being like, I need this to be over.
On a moving boat as well.
Yeah, on a moving boat, and like it was a really flexed foot.
yeah.
Just a flexible queen. So yeah, it is intense.
And what as well was really intense for me is I'd been, especially with that specific show, this was like 3 weeks in, so it's like clear that I am not a dancer at this point, but I'm really giving it 200%. And I was in loads of these numbers that were just dance routines with the dancers, and then me. How I got there, none of us know.
Tarantella.
yeah. And the choreographer would be like, right, okay, guys, so we're going to do a 5, 6, 7, do, part of ball, ray, flip, and you know when dancers like dance on themselves?
And then they do it. He says it, and then they do it. And,
he's like, right, okay, let's go.
What the F has just happened?
He presses play, and everyone does it, the whole dance routine, and I would just be stood there like, and they'd have to be like, I'm so sorry, I have no idea what you just said.
We had a choreographer, same contract, who was like, okay, guys, we're going to do a and then we're going to do it on the left, a 5, 6, 7. And I was like, I don't know it on the right. Never mind the left.
There was just so many moments like that where I was like, what am I doing? What I will say is, by the time it got to the end of that contract,
oh, she's a dancer.
oh my God, I could dance. Like, keep up with me, dance huns, because I'm canning for my life. Like, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
It was a lot to begin with. And the rehearsal process, it was like, there's no taking away from it. Even now, for us, it's intense. But I loved it, and I went away for a year. I only actually did one contract, but it was a year-long contract, so it was long. And it was really challenging in a lot of ways. It's a lot of hard work. Like, we grafted. We were doing 6 nights a week, 2 shows a night, cabarets.
I think it depends as well on the cruise line, doesn't it? It varies from cruise line. So anyone that's listening to this, it really does depend on who you work with.
And to be honest, I don't think there's many that do it like that. It was just that this contract was like that. So it was a lot on my voice as well. I would lose my voice a lot. But that being said, I did love it. I travelled the world. I met some amazing people.
You met me.
I did meet you.
I did actually go on as a passenger.
Yeah, I did. Well, briefly met you. You were like a famous person. You was just sitting in the audience like...
Again, for context, one of my good friends was in Laura's cast. So we went on, me and my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. Irrelevant information. That's where we first had interaction, wasn't it? But anyway, we're jumping ahead. So, what was one of your favourite moments on that contract?
One specific or just general?
Or does anything stand out as like, that was...
I just think being like a proper grown-up and doing a contract that you're being paid for, like you're not just doing it in your free time or training, like you're being paid to be on that stage, and doing like a song that you love and everyone in the audience standing up, like there is no feeling that beats that at all. And we had great audiences, like there was lots of moments like that.
Well, they're all in the Caribbean, they're having a good time, aren't they? They're up for it.
They're half cut, they're living the dream, like, and there was loads of moments. Although saying that, being in the Caribbean, they've been on rum punch all day, half the front row's asleep, so you'd be like giving it your all, and people are like in the audience. But yeah, there was loads of moments like that where I was like, I love doing this.
But then you left that contract, you completed that contract.
I completed that contract.
And you didn't go and do ships again, so what did you do?
No, I didn't. I just felt like it was just a lot. Not just the job itself, but the environment it's intense, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not for everyone.
No, and I did love it, and it didn't take away from that, but I thought, I can't do this for years and years, it's just not me.
Yeah.
So I came home, and I didn't really know anything about what else was out there, really. I was a bit lost, but I had met you. So, going back to that story, I'd met Amy on board the ship, and Amy had just started Pop-Up Princesses at the time, and our mutual friend had been telling me, like, she's doing really well, like, she does this up and
This
down
was
the
like
country.
2016, wasn't it?
Yeah. And after I met Amy, followed her on Facebook was the big thing back in the day. Followed her on
requested
Facebook.
me, probably didn't accept it for like 2 weeks.
Probably not. Keeping mean. Treating mean, sorry. So I got home. I was like, what am I going to do? I started working as a temp to make money. I started like gigging in like venues once a week. And then you put an ad out looking for girls for a girl band, Diva Mix. If you know, you know. And
sorry, let me just interject. We got an inquiry for Diva Mix yesterday.
No. Yeah. Listen, I am available.
Yeah, we did. I forgot to tell you that. What a throwback.
Bringing that back. But you were auditioning for that at the time, and Jenny, our mutual friend, was like, you should go for it. And I was like, I should. So I did. And you gave me the job, obviously, because I nailed it. And that was kind of my first in with Pop-Up. So I would say I was like splitting my life between temp work, which was predominantly tragic, by the way. Really.
Just delve into that for a moment.
It was just such a tragic experience from start to finish. I basically worked for this company who would put me in as like cover for loads of different things. So I started in a car dealership, just sitting on reception, which was
just so on brand, isn't it?
It's so on brand, but it was so boring, like so boring. And anyway, they fired me, so that was who. Then a really dark time, actually. I don't want to get into it. I'm over it, but I don't want to get into it. Then I went to do loads of different, in fact, I went just for one day at this place that was like selling, like handrails for people in the homes.
Yeah, like the elderly.
Yeah. It was so depressing, not just the job, but like the office, I called them up as soon as I left. Like, I was literally waiting to get back, and I was like, never send me anywhere like that again.
I don't need the money, Darren.
Honestly, I'd rather be poor. Like, don't make me do that again. Then I had a really, really fantastic stint in a birdseed factory. Selling on sales, actually, selling birdseed.
Oh, that was your first taste of sales, was
I was selling those peanuts.
Those pumpkin seeds were flying out the door. Wasn't it all old ladies?
It was actually super cute. It was old people that couldn't like order stuff online, so they call up to place orders for like pumpkin seeds because they get green finch in the garden. It was super cute, but also really tragic.
Which was the job you had where the guy's mum would make you curry every Friday?
That was after. So basically, the birdseed factory, the temp company called me up. I'd been there for like a couple of months, just temping whilst I was performing. They were like, "We've got some great news. They want to offer you a full-time job." And I was like, "No, I'm not going back. Thank you, but no, I can't go back there. Please replace me."
Slippery slope.
Yeah. Next thing you know, I'm 10 years deep selling birdseed. So anyway, I literally left the next day. I was like, I can't do it.
Imagine if I saw you on LinkedIn now, just crossing paths, and there you are.
I think I could be
selling sesame seeds or whatever it is.
A big dog in the birdseed world right now. Then I went to another place that was a car parts sales, like international, and a guy who sat next to me, his mum used to do Fat Fridays, where we'd get like good food on Fridays, but his mum used to make Indian food every Friday. We'd chip in like a £5 actually, robbing from us.
She's profiting from that.
Profiting. And she would make Indian food and bring it in every Friday.
I always remember you being like, that was a highlight. And also, if you don't know Laura loves to eat. So of course the highlight of her job was Fat Fridays.
I loved it. And do you know what? I actually did quite like that job because the office was vibes. Like, I actually had a really good the job was dull, but the actual job itself, but the people, were really fun. But that's all happening, me like having these tragic jobs, but at the weekends I didn't stop. Like, I was teaching after work, I was performing at the weekends. It was a crazy busy time because I was just trying to figure out like, what is it that I'm gonna do.
So you did Diva Mix for Pop Up.
Yeah.
What other roles did you do in the early days for Pop Up?
What didn't I do in the early days for Pop Up? I feel like there was a short period there where I became the face. Like, I was just dressing up in everything.
Getting ahead of herself.
I did. Wonder Woman, she's here.
Yeah,
Belle, she's here. Snow White, a mermaid.
Poppy Troll.
Amy made me dress up. She was like, "We've got this amazing gig. We're going to go and do this festival down south, and then we're going to do Billy Fairs' daughter's birthday party." And I was like, "Oh my God, great." Thinking I'd be Belle. Poppy Troll. I was Poppy Troll. We met.
Face paint all the way down to your breasts.
It was a heat wave as well. So when we were going between venues, I had to take my clothes off. So I was just hot pink, naked from the chest down because it was so hot. And we met Diversity at the festival as well. I was mortified. Like, Ashley Banjo is so attractive, and I was just Poppy Troll with the high pony. It was so embarrassing. And then I'm just in front of like the entire cast of Towie, like, "Hey, it's me, Poppy." I hated it. It was the worst. That wasn't even the most tragic.
No, it's not. There's a time that stands out for me is when
Oh God.
we were at Thornton Hall Farm. And Laura was Dorothy from Wizard of Oz. But for some reason, we only had a size 8 red shoes or a size 3 red shoes. So the options were either like scrunch toes into the smallest pair of red shoes you've ever seen, or stuff the toes of the size 8s with tissue. And which one did you go for?
I actually fluctuated between the two, but I did the show in the size 3s, and for reference, I will put a picture when we post this of my little scrunched up feet. The pain, honestly.
But you know, these are the things you've got to do.
The things I've done for
And I'm being actually deadly serious now. The people that have done those jobs back in the day, which were, I don't even know how to explain it, because it's because we all saw the vision. All we had to do is keep working, build up the client base, build up the reputation. Yes, they were small jobs on farms or whatever they were. But the people, the yous, the Shelleys, the Dans, me, I was Fairy, I was doing all of these things. Shelley says she was My Little Pony.
Yeah.
I was also My Little Pony. And we did all of these things because we saw the vision.
Yeah.
But that's what's resulted in this success now.
Where we are now.
And where we are now.
It's
And
also-
not just where the company is, but where people are in their individual roles and careers, because you all bought into what we were doing. And so you will always be part of this. Do
We
you know
all
what I
got
mean?
stuck in, like we
Yeah.
did what we needed to do. Because we also, it's like not even, back then I wouldn't even say, like when I've got my feet stuffed into a size 3, I wasn't thinking I'm going to be a director of this company. I was just like, I want in
Yeah.
with this. I know it's going somewhere and I want in on that journey.
Was Dan the Scarecrow in
He
that?
was the Scarecrow. Yeah, he was.
Also, like, that's so the right character for Dan.
Yeah, that's his entire personality.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
So-
we did see the vision, but the things that we had to do to make it that far is just wild.
Yeah, it is. So you did all of those, the eclectic mix of roles. When did you begin to transition into helping me?
In fact, it was just before my big time Dorothy debut at Thornton Hall Farm.
Your memory's great.
Yeah, and Amy used to, in fact, Dan mentioned this. Amy always is like a step ahead of where she wants to be. So we're doing princess parties and a farm show, but she's like, Laura, I booked a recording studio. We're gonna dress you as Dorothy, and you're gonna record singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow in full costume for social media, because I want it to look mega. And I was like, right, random. So I met you in Blackburn, and Dorothy head to toe. And you were driving me to this studio. We were in the car, and I was like, have you ever thought of having a PA? And you're like, no. Why? I was like, I just think that you need one. Like, it's getting to the point where you need one, and I think it should be me. And you're like, right. I was like, just think about it. I'll leave that with you. And also, I had no clue what actually you did day to day whatsoever. I just knew. I knew from the moment I met you, I can't describe it, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass, but I did. I just knew that it was going somewhere, and I just knew that I wanted to be part of it. I had no idea how I could help at that point. I just knew I wanted in. So anyway, we had that conversation. I go and smash Somewhere Over the Rainbow in the studio, which hopefully isn't available on YouTube anymore.
I'm finding
I
that.
really hope it's not. And then I would just be like, hey, Amy, how are you? Have you had any more thought about that PA thing?
Me, block.
Yeah. And then I just kept on, because I was seeing you a lot.
You were scrappy.
I was scrappy, and because I knew I wanted in. And I also got to say, I don't know how I was going to help you, but I was like, I reckon I'd be really good at it. Like, I already get what she's doing. Like, I understand like where she's trying to go. I just wanted to be part of it. And also I had all my admin experience from the Birdseed Factory, etc.
Which I could have done with.
Yeah, and you are a disorganised queen. Nobody will, and especially then you were like putting all your bookings in like a diary, pen and paper.
On an envelope.
Yeah. Which is very on brand for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, I want to be a PA. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And you should hire me. And then eventually you were like, fine, if you just stop texting me, you can do it.
To be fair though, I did, and I always said this to you, I did admire you asked me that many times that I thought, there's something about you then, you're not going to let it go. So you're going to be of value to me and this business because of how tenacious you were and how resilient you were to me just keep saying no.
But it was all of the things that I was doing in my temp work were all things that I could just do for you, but I'd enjoy it.
And I wasn't saying no because I was being awkward. I just didn't think I needed it at the time, but then it did get a bit out of hand and I did eventually need it.
Yeah, well, you don't have any staff. I was
No.
the first member of staff at Pop-Up Global,
Yes.
just saying.
Yes, you were.
But yeah, I just was like, if I keep asking, and eventually, it's not even just about keep asking, eventually she'll cave. It's more that eventually it will be the right time.
Yeah.
There'll be a moment where she's like, do you know what? I could use some help. And that moment did come, and then...
And were you thinking, I want a career in the entertainment industry on this side of things? Were you thinking that big at the time?
I would say that I wanted to... So I was performing a lot at the time and teaching. So basically half of my week was full with that anyway. I just knew that I needed to fill the rest of the gap, and I wanted it to be something to do with what I love to do. And then when I met you and I was working for you, I started to kind of love Pop-Up. And I was like, that is perfect, because I can just do all the things that I've been doing, but it's just all in one nice little entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, but at this time I'm 24, so I wasn't really thinking ahead that much. I just knew I wanted in, and I had no idea what that would look like.
And what were those early days like when it was me and you in Chorley?
Absolutely hilarious, like how seriously we took it. When I think about how serious we were, but versus like what the reality was. Like we were in this old factory in Chorley, which by the way,
it was a mill.
Amy's pride and joy though, like you loved that place.
Yeah.
She was so proud, and like she got it all done up. She got these floor tiles on half of it, and the other half was a studio, and it had no heating.
No.
So in winter,
I set my chair on fire.
yeah, we used to huddle over this one like electric heater, and you set your chair on fire.
Yeah.
That chair stayed with you for a
Yeah,
while, but
it
you
did.
kept
I just
it.
had to ignore the big leather burnt out patch.
But it was great, and we had this whiteboard, and we'd just fill it with like all the parties we had. We'd be like, God, we're so busy.
I remember feeling more like a boss bitch back then than I do now.
Yeah.
And we've got loads of stuff going on. I just remember being like, Amy, you have an office and you have a full-time member. Well, you were part-time, but then when you were full-time, and we are so busy because we did have like 10 to 15 different things going on a week. And I remember thinking like, I've made it.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is peak.
More than I do now, where it feels just more difficult now because we're much bigger and the opportunities are in a different capacity than they were back then.
But then it was the first time we'd experienced that like element of winning, I guess.
Yeah.
We were in the remit of what we were doing it really well, and we were really busy. And I loved it. Like I slowly, not even slowly, I think really quickly, was just like, I absolutely love this job.
Yeah. Apart from that time you sent me a voice note which did say otherwise, which I am going to bring it up. Maybe 2017.
Yeah, it
And this is when Laura was part-time.
No, let me tell the story, right? I was part-time, so I was working, this is when I just got a part-time job with Amy, but I was still working in the car dealership factory thing at the same time. So I had two bosses. I had Amy and my other boss, but I'd be at work at the other one, which was like, it doesn't sound intense, but it was really intense. I was at a computer all day surrounded by people, and Amy would be like, hey, we just need to do this about this party, and this mum, you've not got back to her, and da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, which was fine.
Slacking. She must have been slacking.
I was slacking on the days that I wasn't working, just to be clear. And this one particular Fat Friday, me and my boss at the other place were on our way to go pick up a takeaway for the team because we were good people like that. And Amy had sent me a message just asking me if I'd done something. And I was like, oh, she's doing my head in. Like, she won't like leave me alone. She's like always on me all the time
was 2
about
minutes.
stuff. 2 minutes of me bitching about Amy. And then I looked down at my phone and I'd recorded it in voice note and sent it
And you
to
couldn't
her.
delete it back then.
That was it.
And I remember standing in the office in Chorley and receiving a Laura's voice note to me. No. I don't think that should have gone to me. I immediately sent it to Dan because Dan didn't know you really that well, but obviously me and Dan were best friends. I was like, oh my God, lol, the girl that works for me has just sent me this voice note slagging me off. How mortified do you think she is right now? Because it didn't bother me and like, I'm so upset that you sent that to me. It was more like, we all do those stupid things and everybody always has a moan about the boss. Like, that's just an age-old thing that goes on forever.
But no one sends it in a voice note.
But no
directly
one
to them.
sends it in a voice note. So I was thinking more like, you're going to be mortified.
My whole body went hot. Like, you know, when you've done, like, something's gone wrong, your whole body, like, your blood drains from your body. My whole body went hot. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was absolutely, sorry to swear, shitting myself. I was like, that is it. Like, she's going to sack me. It was horrendous. But also, now you know me. Isn't that so on brand for me?
So on brand. You've done so many things like that we can't share on the podcast.
No, we can't. But
that I'm always like, take a breath. How have you said that to that person?
How have I DM'd that person that by accident when I wasn't supposed to? How have I written on that LinkedIn post? Like, there's so many things that I do.
But also, it was 8 years ago.
And we worked
But
through
I'll
it.
always remember.
You're forgiven, but you'll never forget.
So, you obviously made the transition from being a performer to working behind the scenes. What advice would you give to performers that are listening to this now on, obviously you did it really organically and without much thought on the bigger plan, but now that you're in a position to offer advice, what would that be?
I would say when you're working now, whatever format that is, acting or singing or being a dancer or whatever, and you see something that piques your interest, whether it's the costume fitting, you're really interested in how that looks, or I don't know, the producer is up to something and you find you're intrigued by it, lean into that, because you don't know where that interest could take you. because you can stay in the industry without doing that specific thing that you're doing. Because I think like a natural thing is for a dancer to become a choreographer, and that's where you stay. But there's so many more routes to that can lean into your skills in other places. And I think I did that by accident. Like I met you and was intrigued by Pop-Up and what you did. So I leaned into it really hard. Like when we were doing the shows, I would like watch what you're doing, the conversations you were having, how you were talking to the client and all of those things. And I leaned into it. And I was like, I can do that. So that you don't have to do it, I'll do that for you. And I can call this client and I can talk to that performer by watching you do it and learning from that. I think there's so much that you can learn on the job. But I think obviously when you are working, you're in rehearsals or whatever, it's so easy to just be completely absorbed with what you have to do. Yeah. I think sometimes with performers, you feel so, because you're the most important part of a product, but it can be quite insular. You're just thinking about what you're doing. But just think about that bigger picture a little bit more. There's so much that goes into getting you on that stage. Yeah. And all of those things are an opportunity for you.
We've just taken on another member of staff who is an ex-performer, and I was having a call with her yesterday. And one of the things she said was, I can't believe how much it actually takes to put on a show. Yeah. Because I think when you're a performer, you are just thinking about your own marks, your own words, whatever. You're not thinking about the hundreds of people behind the scenes in every kind of element.
No, but also you're not paid to. You're paid to come there and you're paid to do your job. Yeah. So it's not, I'm not saying go above and beyond, do more.
But if you want that career, it is.
It is going above and beyond. But it's mostly just thinking about those things, watching for those things and being aware of them, because there's so much to go. Most people that work for Pop-Up will have no idea what I do, which is fine, they don't need to. But it's a massive part of what gets them on the stage. And I think there's just so much opportunity in this world that's beyond your initial skill.
And what's your review then of being a performer and now working in the entertainment industry, but in this kind of role? Yeah, what's your review to performers on like, do it, or
what, as in like transition? Yeah. Oh, 100% do it, because you said this in your podcast when we were speaking, and performing does have a shelf life, whether that's a shelf life of how much you'll be booked once you get to a certain point, or how much you'll be wanting to do it. Yeah. But if you're really lucky, which I have been, you will land yourself in a position where you actually love what you do just as much. Like I loved singing, and it's still one of my favourite things to do. It was my biggest passion, and I genuinely, if you had asked me when I was 20, I would say I will never, ever, ever not be a singer. That is what I will do for the rest of my life. But then when I got my full-time job, and I was still performing, it's the busiest I've ever been actually, I was still performing a lot. And I was doing both. I still loved them both, but eventually the scale shifted, and I actually started to love my current job more than I love being on stage, which is something I never expected to happen. And I don't know if it happens for everybody. I don't know if we're just lucky, but if you kind of root yourself in a position that's in the industry and add value somewhere beyond being a singer, you never know where that could take you.
I just think it's more fulfilling. You think there's no better feeling than the applause and the growing something and making a difference in the industry and winning the contracts and then delivering them and watching them in the audience and thinking, shit, we put that together. It's actually way more fulfilling than being in it.
It can be overwhelming sometimes, I think.
The amount of times we've all cried.
Oh, it's pathetic. But we love it. But also, like, the only way I can describe it is, to me now, winning a contract, when we win a contract, is the exact same feeling as when you get the phone call from that audition. Yeah. It's exactly the same. And I think no other industry I think it has that excitement of when you win contracts and when you grow and whatever. But I think it's because we put so much... For me, and I'm speaking on behalf of everyone at Pop-Up here as well, it's not just a job, it goes beyond that. We love it. And
it's a career and it's a life.
It's a life. Like, Pop-Up is a massive, massive part of our lives. So when we do win, it is the exact same feeling as that audition when you win for yourself. Yeah. It's like the best feeling in the world.
So going on from that then, talk to us a bit more about what your role today is and how you got into that role, and then the feeling of that role.
So I'm the Business Development Director at Pop-Up Global, which basically means so what you see on stage of what we provide, I'm like the very beginning of that process. So I find clients, nurture relationships with clients. They come to me with a brief. I then create an entertainment program for them and present that to them in various different ways, and go on the big time sell basically and make them buy into it, and like see the dream and see the vision. And then the moment that gets to sign off, that's when I then hand it over to Dan and the rest of the team.
And it is a very behind the scenes role from a performer perspective. If you're in the business world, LinkedIn and our clients, all they see is you, and they might not see as much of Dan or Shelley as much.
Yeah, they'll only see them when it comes to the point of us actually working with them.
But the performers probably don't understand what that kind of job entails. So what skills from your performing days do you apply now for anyone that's thinking, is that a job I could do?
Confidence, 100% confidence, because you've got to have the balls to reach out to people, call people, go into rooms,
cold call people,
go into rooms with people, CEOs, managing directors, owners, who you're trying to sell to and present to them, which, by the way, I'm just a girl. Like, sometimes I'm in these rooms and I'm like, what is going on here? But I'm good at it, like performing as well. I think, especially because we sell entertainment, by nature, it is entertaining. So I can have fun with it. And also when I create something, a show, for example, a client wants a show, most of the time I love it. Like, whatever I've thought of, I love the idea. So it's really easy for me to be like, to sell it, because I'm so invested in it and in the results that it can bring to them as a client and how the audience is going to react and all of those things. Persistence. I think to be a performer, you have to be persistent. You've got to have a thick skin. You get knocked down and knocked down and knocked down. The amount of no's that I have had over the years is unbelievable, but
they just bounce off you.
They just bounce off me. I don't take it, and like to the point where like don't know if I should have some restraining orders.
Like, there was a client a few years ago where we were like, oh,
she is gonna like literally call the police if I call her one more time. But it's that constantly going back, but not to the point where it is actually a problem.
But it comes from a place of passion. Like, you need to have this show.
I know you said you didn't want it then, but this is how great it will be for you to have it. So say those are the key things.
And I think a lot of performers probably won't even see that as a key role in an entertainment company. They might see Dan's role or Shelley's role, but actually the confidence and the resilience and the ability to speak to strangers and sell, and we use the word sell, but it sounds quite aggressive. It is just sharing what we do and inspiring people to come and join us. You know, it's not like we're trying to sell,
hi, I've got a new toothpaste.
Yeah,
like, it's not
like that. It's like, this is what we do. This is the culture we've created. These are our standards. Come work with us.
Yeah.
So it's not like telesales. It's not a Wolf of Wall Street.
No, I wish it was. No, it's not. It's more like, I guess, sharing knowledge is the way that I would describe it, because people come to us for help with something. Even if they don't think it's for help, they want to fix a problem most of the time. Sometimes they come and they're just like, we want to do it for fun. Woo! And then I'm like, love that. But a lot of the times it's like, we need to fix X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, they want more footfall. They want longer dwell time. They want to make more revenue or whatever.
And then I can then share my knowledge on how I believe they can do that through live entertainment. Yeah. But I think performers won't know much about it because it's not a...
But for the performers listening, definitely.
Follow me on LinkedIn.
Follow her on LinkedIn. And it's definitely an avenue to explore, because I think, like I said, people might think, oh, I could be a choreographer, or I'll go into casting, but this is a really, really exciting part of the industry.
I used to do both. So basically, just to rewind, when I first started working for Pop Up, we both just did everything, didn't we? Like, we were both just chipping in, doing everything and anything. So it was like, it got to like 3 years in when I didn't have any role. It was like we were just here hoping for the best. Yeah. Then Dan came in, and that helped. Dan had way more experience than we did, I think. So he kind of helped to balance that out. But I was, until about a year ago, I was still doing delivery and sales across everything but ships. So I was still delivering all the time. Yeah. But it was the beginning of, or the end of, not last year, the year before, Amy was like, what do you like? Amy does this thing all the time where she like just corners you in a meeting that you don't even know she intends to. And she's like, what's your biggest goal in life? Like, where do you see yourself both personally and professionally in 5 years' time? And you're like, what are you talking about? But fine. And then you end up crying and it's all emotional and it's like, I just want to be this. Anyway, so she did that. She was like, what do you like about your job? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, what are the day-to-day, what are the bits that you like about your job? And I was like, the sales part. I was like, I love it. I love that part of my job. That's the bit that excites me the most. And if anything, sometimes the delivery part drains me. It's a lot. Like, you have to be a certain...
Whereas Dan could not sell sand to the Arabs.
No.
But like, if you don't want the sand, it's no problem.
It's fine.
Absolutely
I'll
not.
take the sand away.
But loves the delivery
Yeah.
and the stress.
Exactly. He thrives in that situation, whereas I'm like, oh, an elf's called in sick. Oh, and he's like, right, let's get to the action. But so we're basically the opposite sides of a coin. So about a year ago, it became that I was just in this role and Dan was in the operations role, and that is like the best thing that has happened to me for my job because I just love it.
And it resulted in a really big move.
It did. Yes. We won a contract a few years ago for a company called Majid Al Futtaim that are based in Dubai. And Amy had always just mentioned Dubai. Like, we should do this, we should do that. And then over a period of us pitching for that contract, we came to visit Dubai. It was the first time I'd ever been. Amy would bring us, and like the first time we came, we stayed in this like amazing place with a view of the sea. It was just so cool and I loved it. And then about a year after like the period of us winning, in the process of winning that contract, Amy was like, listen, I think I'm going to open up a company in Dubai. I'm saying Amy like you're not her, like she's not here, but you said, I'm thinking of opening up a company. I want us to go for 6 weeks to test the waters, to see if to open this company, but also to see if we like it, which by the way for a boss is really nice. Like, bosses would normally be like, you're relocating, best of luck, you're going to Yemen. But Amy wasn't. She was like, let's go together, let's see how we feel about it, and then we'll talk about the move. And then in June of last year, we did that for 6 weeks. It went really well. We really enjoyed it, personally, professionally. And then in the June, or maybe it's the July, Amy was like, oh, by the way, you're moving to Dubai in August. Hope you're good with that. And I was like, yes, I am. Get me on that plane. So yeah, I've lived in Dubai for 18 months.
And that's where we are now.
It is.
So you've been at Pop-Up now for 8 years, which is wild, considering the company's 10 years.
Yeah.
What is your funniest moment?
My funniest moment at Pop-Up? I mean, honestly, if anyone is experienced working with us, we just lol all day. Like, we laugh all the time. My funniest moment, I actually have two, and they're so silly, but my most favourite was back in the day, we were working with like smaller venues and we took it dead serious. Like, it was like we both turned up like full formal wear, like business gals, and we went to this meeting at a garden centre.
Oh no.
It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And we're taking it really seriously. We're being like professional, like corporate girlies. And we were sat across from the two clients, and for some reason she wanted to do an impression of something. I don't know why, but she stood up to do this impression and went to lean against this stool, and I swear to God, she lost her footing and she's on her back like a beetle.
And in those moments, you don't know what is the right thing to do you?
I could not hold it together. I couldn't
Like
speak.
a beetle.
She was on her back with her legs and arms in the air like a beetle. And me and Amy were just like, she landed by my feet, and honestly,
You were laughing, but I was like,
tears. I couldn't speak for the rest of the meeting. I sat quietly like.
I also know what your other one's going to be.
This one?
Yeah.
I love this story. In COVID year, we won our first cruise contract, but COVID was still weird, so we couldn't do in-person auditions. So we were doing loads of like interviews and auditions online. And we were interviewing this guy who, by the way, was an amazing guy. Ended up getting the job. We worked with him. He was great. But we're on this Zoom call with him, and he came on the call and it was all fine. And then after about 5 minutes, a couple of minutes, he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I've done, but there's a filter on that's giving me a mustache, but we all thought he just had a mustache.
We thought that was his real mustache.
For some reason, I found it the funniest thing in the... And I remember we're all sat there in a row on this camera, and I was like at the end of the row, but he kept like, we'd ask him a question, be like, so why do you want to wait for pop-up? And he'd be like, so I just really feel passionately about... Because when he did that, the moustache went away, and then he'd get into what he was talking, he'd be like, so I've worked on cruise because the moustache
Yeah,
would
he
come
just
back.
had to speak with his hand over his mouth the whole time.
I was in tears. This
She
is
couldn't hold it together.
20-minute interview, and I was just silently crying the whole way through.
Yeah,
And
that
they
is
just
funny.
stand out for me. I love it.
And they're so silly. And people will be laughing at me like, that's not even that funny,
No.
but you had to be there.
You had to be there. All of my moments, you have to be there moments.
We do laugh all the time.
There's so many, and it's always in the moments when we shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I find that funnier. That's what someone falling over, and that's happened
And
a few
we've had,
times.
yeah, I was going to say, we've had that a few times in serious situations when we've been pitching to really big, important people. And then they fall over.
Wait, no, sorry. Let's discuss. I fell over. I fell over just literally 2 weeks ago at a meeting. A really big client in Saudi. New client, like we've never met them. Luckily, I got through the meeting, and then we went downstairs, and I just went absolutely flying.
She went arse over tit, and it was both heels like down this ramp. I gasped.
Like a slide.
It was like a slide.
Crying, laughing. I love stuff like that.
Okay, so that's your funniest moment. What's your best moment?
Every time we win something that I've really, really worked hard for feels really good, because there's sometimes when pitches are like, oh, it was hard but it worked, but there's sometimes where it's like work, like you put in the work, and when we win stuff like that, that feels amazing. But honestly, this is so ick, but it was when you offered me a full-time job. I didn't expect it. I was desperate for it, but I really just didn't think you were in a position to give me one at the time because of where the business was at. And when you offered me that, honestly, this is, again, it's so ick for me to say this, but it changed my life. Like, it really did. And that will always, always be, like, one of my favourite memories, because I remember thinking, this is it. Like, you know, we were talking before, like, oh, did you plan the transition or whatever? But that was the moment where I was like,
I'm going to make a career of this.
I've done it. This is the start of something that's going to be mega, and it was.
So, what's next for Pop-Up Global, Laura?
What's not next? What is next for Pop-Up Global? I feel like we have worked really, really hard over the last few years to cement like who we are in the industry, both in the UK and the Middle East, two very different markets as well. So it's been a real challenge to do that across so many challenges. But I feel like now we're at a really good point. We're 10 years in, and we really know who we are. I think that's the most important thing. Like, we know who Pop-Up is. We know what we want, who we want to be. Whereas previously, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we were just like, oh, we want this, and we want that, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. Whereas now it's like, no, we know exactly what we want. And because of that, everyone else does too. Yeah. So we're in the process of pitching for things that are very us, and working on things that are very us, and finalising things that are very us.
Yes.
So I just think there's loads coming for us, I'd say, in the next 12 months. 12 months and beyond.
It's very exciting. And my last question. So we always end the podcast answering a question that a performer has asked us to be answered in the podcast. And the question is, if a performer was going to start using LinkedIn for work, what would you suggest they did?
I would suggest downloading ChatGPT for a start, because you spell check.
For spell check.
Yeah.
It's very obviously for LinkedIn posts has been done on ChatGPT.
Yeah, 100%. But for spell checking purposes alone, follow as many relevant people from your industry and slightly wider than just your industry as well. So say you work in entertainment, follow people from events, follow people from venues, as many people as you can, grow that network. And also find your voice and speak in your voice. I think it's so obvious when people are just posting without meaning.
Generic,
like, oh, and also try not to sell. Let's sell yourself and sell what you're doing. Obviously, that's the point of it. But don't be too salesy. Yeah. Because I think there's a fine balance. But get on it. Post, see what works, see what doesn't. Get your name out there. There's not many performers on LinkedIn, so it's a really good time to be a performer on LinkedIn. And lastly, and most importantly, have the balls to reach out to people, because you never ever know. You might message somebody and they might not reply because it's not the right time, but You might then just check in. Hey, Laura, how's it going? Just wondering if you saw my message. Would be great to catch up at the exact moment that I'm looking for something that is exactly you. So be persistent.
Agreed. Coming from the sales queen.
Well, I try.
Thank you so much, Laura Ellen White. Now we need to get back because you've got work to do.
Great.
Thank you for listening to our most recent episode of Beyond the Show, and make sure you subscribe so that you can hear more. Thank you.